For thousands of years, dogs ate whatever their families ate: meat, bones, scraps, and the leftovers from the table. And they were just fine. Then, sometime after World War II, a handful of companies sat America down and taught us something brand new. They told us that the food in our own kitchens was dangerous for our dogs, and that the only safe meal came sealed inside a bag they sold us. It was one of the most successful marketing campaigns in American history, and it worked so well that most people today have no idea how their own grandparents fed a dog. So today, we are bringing it back. 10 Forgotten Ways. Americans fed their dogs before Kibble ever existed, counted down to the one the pet food industry worked the hardest to make you forget. Number 3 is the one your own vet might still warn you about, and number 1 changed everything. Before we start, hit that subscribe button, because this is exactly the kind of thing they would rather you never remember. Let's count them down. Number 10. The scrap bowl. In an American home in the 1930s, there was no such thing as dog food. There was the family meal, and there was whatever was left of it. After supper, the bits of meat, the trimmings, the gravy, the vegetables. Nobody finished. All of it went into the dog's bowl by the back door. Your great-grandmother did not measure it, and she never read a label. She simply scraped the plate, and the dog thrived on the same honest food the family ate. It cost nothing, because it was food that would have been thrown out anyway. Then the pet food companies arrived with a brand new message. Table scraps are dangerous. Table scraps are unbalanced. Only our bag is complete and safe. They needed you to believe that your own dinner was bad for your dog, because a dog fed from the table does not sell kibble. And just like that, the oldest way of feeding a dog on earth became something you were taught to feel guilty about. Think about how strange that really is. For thousands of years, a dog ate beside the people it loved, and within a single generation, we were trained to believe that was reckless. And that love now meant reaching for a bag instead of a plate. Number 10. Number 9. The drippings jar. Right beside the stove sat a jar of saved fat and meat drippings, the golden leftovers from every roast and every pan of bacon. A single spoonful poured over the dog's food turned a plain bowl into something a dog came running for. And it was not just flavor. That rendered fat was pure energy, the kind a working farm dog burned through from sunup to sundown. Nothing was wasted, because in those years, wasting food was almost a sin. A few cents of meat fed the family and the dog both. Then, after the war, the vegetable oil companies spent millions telling Americans that animal fat was the enemy, that it would clog you up and do you in. They were selling shortening and seed oil, so the free fat your grandmother saved by the stove suddenly became the thing you were supposed to fear and pour down the drain. Number 8. Organ meat from the butcher. Liver, heart, and kidney, the parts most families could barely give away. The butcher often handed them over for pennies or for nothing at all, because there was no fancy market for them yet. And our grandparents understood something we managed to forget. Those organs are the most nutrient-dense food on the entire animal, loaded with iron, vitamins, and protein, exactly what a dog is built to thrive on. A little liver cooked up was a feast for a farm dog and a tonic for a sick one. Today, that very same organ meat is freeze-dried, packaged, sprinkled into an expensive bag, and sold right back to you as a premium superfood topper. The ingredient never changed. Only the price did, along with the marketing that made you forget you could buy it fresh at the counter for next to nothing. Picture your great-grandmother at the butcher shop, asking for the liver and the heart that the man behind the counter was about to throw out, and walking home with a week of the best food a dog could eat for the change in her pocket. That knowledge did not disappear by accident. It disappeared because there is no profit in something a butcher gives away for free. Number 8. Number 7. A fresh egg for the coat. If a farm dog's coat ever looked dull, every grandmother in America knew the fix by heart. Crack a fresh egg over the food a few times a week. They had watched it work for generations. A dog eating eggs grew a coat that shined like it had been polished. They did not know the science that an egg is nearly perfect protein carrying the exact fats a healthy coat needs, but they did not have to know it. They could see it out in the yard. There was no supplement aisle, no $40 bottle of skin and coat chews with a cartoon dog on the front. There was a hen out back and a dog that looked absolutely incredible. Today, that same simple promise is bottled, branded, and marked up 100 times over. Your great-grandmother did it with 1 egg and $0. Number 7. Number 6. Fish from the river and the tin. In coastal towns and river country, dogs ate whatever the family caught. The heads, the tails, the parts people did not want, cooked down and stirred into the bowl. And in a whole lot of homes, a cheap tin of sardines was the quiet secret weapon tossed to the dog whole. They had no idea they were handing their dog a perfect dose of the oils that keep joints loose and a coat glossy. They just knew the old dog moved a little easier on the days he got fish. Now, the pet industry sells you that fish oil in a pump bottle for $30, the very same omega oils that came free inside a 99-cent can of sardines your grandparents already kept in the pantry. Number 6. Number 5. The broth pot. When bones were boiled down for the family soup, the dog received the gift at the very end, a bowl of rich, warm broth poured over stale bread or the last of the scraps. For an old dog, a sick dog, or a picky one that would not touch its food, a ladle of bone broth brought them right back to the bowl. It was hydration, minerals, and pure comfort all at once, the original recovery food, made entirely from bones that were already simmering on the stove. And here is the part you can already feel coming. That exact same bone broth now sits on the pet store shelf in a tiny carton with a paw print on it, marked up many times over. Your grandmother made gallons of it for free, simply as a side effect of feeding her own family. That was the genius of the old way that we lost. Nothing was a separate product because everything had a second life. The soup fed the family on Monday and the dog on Tuesday, and not 1 cent was spent on the dog at all. The bag economy could never allow that because the bag only works if the dog's food is something you have to go out and buy. Number 5. Number 4. Straight from the garden. The carrots that grew a little crooked, the pumpkin that went past its prime, the squash and greens the family could not finish, all of it found its way into the dog's bowl. A raw carrot was the original dog chew, cheap, crunchy, and good for the teeth. Cooked pumpkin settled an upset stomach long before anyone thought to sell it in a can with a dog on the label. Our grandparents were not chasing a health trend. They simply refused to waste a single thing the garden gave them, and the dog was healthier for it. Today, those same vegetables are freeze-dried, powdered, and proudly listed as premium ingredients on bags that cost a small fortune. The backyard garden did it for the price of a seed packet. Number 4. Number 3, the one your own vet might warn you about today, and for a real reason, so listen closely. The raw soup bone from the butcher. For generations, a big raw knuckle bone was a dog's favorite afternoon. Hours of happy chewing that scraped the teeth clean and kept a bored dog out of trouble. The butcher gave them away for nothing. But here is the honest part, because this channel will not hand you a comfortable myth. The old-timers used big, raw bones, never cooked ones, because cooked bones splinter and can cause serious harm. And even a raw bone needs a watchful eye, and it is not the right choice for every dog. So this is the one where the old way and the modern warning both have a point. The lesson is not bones for every dog. The lesson is that a dog needs to chew something real, not a handful of dyed, corn-based biscuits sold to you as dental care. Ask your vet what is actually safe for your dog. Number 3. Number 2. The buttermilk bowl. On dairy farms, absolutely nothing went to waste, and the dog got the leftovers of the leftovers. The buttermilk left after churning, the milk that had clabbered and soured, a spoonful of cottage cheese trimmings. In small amounts, it was a cheap source of protein and good bacteria for the gut, the original probiotic, decades before anyone printed that word on a label and charged you for it. Now, not every dog handles dairy well, so this was always a little, never a lot. But the idea behind it was pure. Real living food from the farm, given in moderation, instead of a powdered supplement scooped out of a $35 tub. The farm dog got the very same benefit straight from the churn, and it did not cost a dime extra. Number 2. Number 1. The forgotten way the pet food industry worked the hardest to erase. They fed the dog from the very same kitchen that fed the family. That was the whole secret. There was no separate dog aisle, no bag, no panel of science on the back. There was real food, meat and eggs and bones and broth and vegetables, and the dog simply ate a share of it. And dogs lived long, working, happy lives on it for thousands of years. Then a handful of companies did something brilliant and honestly a little sad. They convinced an entire country that the food in its own kitchen was no longer good enough, that feeding a dog suddenly required a degree, a formula, and a 40-pound bag. They did not just sell us kibble. They sold us the belief that we could not feed our own dogs without them. And once you believe that, you never stop buying. You buy a bag every week for the entire life of the dog, and you thank them for it because they taught you it is the responsible thing to do. That is not a product. That is a perfectly built habit, passed down now for 3 generations. That is the one to truly remember. Not any single trick on this list, but the whole idea standing behind every one of them. Your grandparents fed their dogs real food, and they did it without asking permission from anyone. Number 1. So here is what all these old ways are really telling you. You do not need to copy your great-grandmother exactly, and honestly, you should not, because we know more now than she did. Cooked bones are out. Onions and garlic are out. Too much dairy is out. And before you change one thing about how you feed your dog, you talk to your vet, because every dog is different, and an older dog most of all. But the heart of it still stands strong. Real food was never the enemy, and the bag was never the only answer. A scrap of meat, a fresh egg, a raw carrot, a little broth, none of that was ever dangerous to a dog. It was only ever bad for business. So tell me in the comments, what did your family feed their dog before kibble? Because some of you remember this with your own eyes. And if this opened them a little wider, subscribe, because this channel reads the label, and it remembers what came before the label existed.